I should have. Oh, here we go.
Hey, Rich.
Frank, how are you?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Another huge day in the market today.
Yeah, was it?
Yes, it was. The last time we had you on the show, UPI was around 26, 27 cents. And It's been an amazing week for UPI. You guys hit 45 cents. You guys
hit 50 at one point.
Pretty much everybody that's in the pick now is up. So congratulations to members all over the world. And you guys just had some huge news. Universal PropTech Inc. announces agreement with LuminUltra Technologies to provide SARS-CoV-2 COVID-19 surface testing. Can you tell me a little bit about this news, Frank?
Absolutely. So one, you're absolutely right. People have been making money and we're very happy. Two, so I think I said it last time, our approach to dealing with COVID, look guys, it is the Wild West out there, okay? Everyone, and there's a lot of great stocks right now who've gone hard after solving the COVID problem. It's a Wild West. There's no order. There's no model as to how people are procuring for air quality. And honestly, we're the new sheriff in town. So we're trying to bring a little bit of order to it. And so our approach has constantly been, we're going to bring the best technology to market. We're going to bring the best approach to make sure the right technology gets to work and can be validated. And so what we just did yesterday, which I think is quite critical, is, so let me walk you through what it does, right? Then you'll understand how it fits in. So say your kid's in a classroom and when they go to school and someone in that classroom has tested positive. And so what do we know that every school does? The entire class, maybe even their cohorts, are sent home.
Yes.
Whether anyone else has any symptoms or not, you send them home, they're in quarantine until such time they either get tested or it plays out. But what happens internally in that school? That school would, obviously, they have their disinfection protocol. How do we continue to make sure it's clean? But now you as a parent, for every other grade, every other class, how do you know that that class is not positive and people aren't spreading it? So you need something that validates it's not there. And so LuminUltra being our partner in this and us having a service to deliver this, we can go to that classroom within 24 hours from that positive test coming out. And we could say, great, we could, with our swab test on site, after a little bit of training on our part, our individuals go to that site, they use their swab test, they swab the surfaces within that room, the likely surfaces that this individual may have touched in that space. They run a test that takes no longer than 2 hours from end to end to complete and confirm in writing whether COVID is present in that space. That's what that does, right? So the effect is, now that if you're a parent, you're saying, my school cleans that room. My school can validate for me that COVID's not present in that room. So you start to think in a, where this is getting to as you're opening the economy. People want that kind of validation. They don't just want to know when there's a problem. They want to know that it's been solved.
Absolutely.
So us having an ability of saying, here's the air quality equipment we're going to sell you, right? Whether it's ionization, germicidal UV, that we can now validate that actually in that classroom, if a kid does come in who has COVID, that we can validate 24 hours later that COVID is not present in that class. That's what we're able to do. So that's the context I give it to you in.
I'll give you an example of why I think this is so big. Right now, here in Vancouver, my son goes to high school, and another school had the variant of COVID, the really dangerous one, the one that's like in the UK. Apparently someone got—
It's here.
Yeah, it's here in Vancouver, in one of the schools close to where my son goes to school. So they're talking about shutting down the whole school. And then apparently there's one kid in my son's school out of 1,600 students that has COVID. And my son comes home yesterday and he's like, we might shut down our whole school because of one kid. Now imagine if Universal PropTech had their technology in that school and they'd be able to clean it up, send a message to all the parents and say, okay, guys, maybe go home for a day. And now everything is clean. We're back to, back to normal.
Yeah.
Maybe the kid stays home that's sick and everybody goes back to school and everything's back to normal. That would give the parents, that would give me a lot more comfort to send my kid back to school, as opposed to, I have no idea if my kid's going to go to school and get COVID.
So that's, Rich, that's the Wild West aspect of this, is that, and it's not just that if the kid got sent home, I'll give you the other questions. If, say, the kid was sent home and the school was sent home, how do we know that what's even happening in the HVAC system in that building to begin with today isn't actually further spreading it, right? So we don't know any of those things, right? But what I do know is that if we're going to walk into a facility and we can install your air quality equipment, which is now top of the list of schools and organizations installing items that are going to help, squash and stop the spread of COVID-19, you're focusing on those pieces of equipment. But how do you really know at the end of the day? Other than you as an administrator can say, check off that box, we did our best to mitigate any risk of us looking like we're passing along COVID-19. What can you really do to validate that? Is that the right design? Is that the right system to have installed? Is it that many units? Do we get the right air coverage? So we're worrying about that. But again, it's the Wild West and there's no model to how to procure this. So if we're saying, here's what we think are the right products for that building that we're going to install, and we're so confident that it's the right design and the right products that we're actually able to bring in a solution that validates it, and we can go further as to what we're designing to make sure if COVID's present, fine, we'll rectify it and put in additional equipment and do things to make it whole. But the point being, how do you really know what you've installed is actually effective at this point? Or your cleaning protocols, if they're actually working? You don't. No. You're doing them because somewhere someone said, if you put this much salt on your parking lot road after a snowfall within X hours, you've done your best to mitigate risk that if someone falls, it wasn't your fault, right? This is a little different. This is killing people. So we have to take a little bit more attention to if there's a better way to do it, then, and about the better way. You now know you can validate this. I mean, never mind 24 hours, we can be there pretty fast to validate whether it's present or not. And if you know that this technology exists or not, you're not using this to validate why your school or your building or your restaurant or your health club is open, then I have to wonder what you're really doing.
A lot of people are asking me about Control Energy. I'm sure you're familiar with them, correct?
I am.
And I don't know how to ask this question, but it's coming in the chat.
Go for it.
Yeah. So are they a competitor? Are you guys slightly different? I know you're different, but can you explain kind of how you're going to work hand in hand or differently from Control Energy?
I think Paul Ghezzi has done a great job. Okay. I think he's done a wonderful job. Knew him before in the solar industry. And so, God bless Control Energy and what they've been able to accomplish. That's great. But what I said earlier is this is the Wild West, and everyone and their mother's uncle are coming out with, air purifiers you can buy off Amazon. They're all coming out with solutions that they say is the,
best,
the solution to solving the problem. Okay. And it's just, we did our homework, and our CEO, Chris Hazelton, figured this out pretty early on too. And we added to it, which is there is no one silver bullet. There can't be. And so, yes, it would be great. So in our ideal, it would be great. You keep people out of a building who are COVID positive. Of course, check, let's do that, right? And we keep looking for ways to make that happen. 2, people are in a building. How do you make sure that the air they're breathing and what they're touching in that building aren't going to be contaminated? Okay, so there are many ways you solve that. And then 3, how are you validating whether or not, and this probably is in the case of Control, how do you validating that if there is COVID present in the air or on a surface that you're capturing it? And I think there are a number of ways you do that. Control has an interesting way to do it. And if it works for them, I think that's great. The idea of having an automated unit on a wall, some wall in a room that's validating whether COVID passes by that one particular spot. I think it's brilliant what they've created, but I think it's one of those solutions where, it's a nice to have. Can I put a $15,000 unit or $20,000 unit in every classroom in order to make my kids safer? Do I start picking which kids get them and which kids don't? I don't know. All I do know is that I can give them the solutions that would stop that bad air from being circulating in the first place. And then if I'm going to validate and do what Control is trying to do and validate that my space is clean, I can send our team on a truck roll and validate every time a kid is determined or on predetermined auditing schedule. Let's pick spots in a school every month, every day, every week. How often do we validate? What we don't know yet in this Wild West, again, we're the new sheriff, is, should it be every 5 minutes you're validating it? I think that might be a little too much. Should it be every day? I mean, possibly. So there's just no rule of thumb yet. And I think if you really want to do this right, you think in terms of, well, how are people buying? If the buyer's willing to say, I want it done every day, or I only want it done when we have a positive kid, a test of a positive kid or a teacher who's been in this school, then I would say there's a very different approach to how you, or a solution to how you approach that, to say, we've got you covered. We'll be there within X amount of hours. We're going to swab it and get it done within 2 hours. And we can swab multiple rooms within those 2 hours. And here's your clean bill of health. I think that's a pretty cool solution. And to one that validates what we're trying to sell, in addition to that, the thing that cleans the room, cleans the space, I think that's a great, 1, 2, 3 punch. Keep people out, effectively clean the air, clean the surface, and then validate it. And so, I think we're just different from control. I think we being a more meat and bones, we're in every building to begin with. We're already doing your HVAC. We're already doing your controls. We generally get a good sense of what the customer's interest and their appetite is. If you had an Apple Watch that said to you every minute, stand up now. You didn't stand up in the minute, stand up. Is that too much? If your watch, and they clearly landed on every hour, someone, Fitbit, I think it is actually, is going to tell you every hour you should stand up. So everyone, eventually the dust settles and people figure out what's reasonable of a request that satisfies what you're trying to achieve. And so we think the solution we've come up with, LuminUltra, which is just an amazing Canadian technology, by the way, that we have a great package of how we can go to market and be realistic, because, in 6 months or 8 months or a year, do I think people will want every hour, every day, every week, assessments of every room? I don't believe so. And I think we have to roll with the punches and make sure we're delivering what the actual customer is looking for. So that was my polite way of answering that question.
Yeah. And it's the same thing. Like, a lot of people in the beginning were like, oh, vaccines, there's only going to be one player. And I'm like, that's not the way it works. There's like 5 vaccine companies, and there's probably going to be 10 by the time it's done, because there's not enough vaccines from one company to vaccinate the whole world. So
and I think with all the variants, what you're also finding with vaccines is that there is no silver bullet. It's likely, like the flu, it could end up turning into, well, maybe not an annual, maybe it's a semi-annual, biannual. Like there's other things that will play out. But all I know is that our objective is to help make sure every facility, every business owner, every building owner gets to open their economy, open their business as fast as possible and as healthy as possible. We're trying to keep these buildings healthy. So we have a bit of a different twist on it.
I like that. And it's very important. Now, the last time you were on the show, the stock was under 30 cents. And we were talking about the fact that it was having selling pressure. We weren't able to get blue skies. And you mentioned that there was a couple of people that were selling. And we talked about that once they get out of the way and they finish selling, maybe the stock explodes. It's at 47 cents.
Yeah. Where's my rocket ship? It's
you're at 47
you know
cents.
What, I think people expected that obviously there, like I said on the show last time, there are people who get the advantage of buying in as a few others were selling, who again made significant multiples on their money. So it's not like they were, as long as there are new buyers coming in, they were content in taking their 10x and getting out. And to those people who came in, and I think what you saw even earlier today is there are people who came in at under 30 who probably replaced those guys. We're already saying, I've got a pretty good multiple already on what I've done. So, it's going to happen. I get it, the ups and downs. We are in blue skies. I think we're going to keep putting out better stories, more equipment. I think it's internally, everyone's getting a good sense of how defined our story and our plan is right now and how it's rolling out. With LuminUltra, with Fresh Air UV, Atmosphere, with Air Sniper, we've got really cool pieces to start going aggressively after the market. I mean aggressive. And we've done some testing. We've put in some bids to understand how this plays. My God, does it play well? I mean, I'm pretty bullish on this. It plays quite well. And so as we start gearing up and bringing in the right staff and confirming that model going forward, we'll take more than our fair share of the market and take advantage of this. I view it as a bit of an early mover advantage. And it's also a bit of again, if we could make sure that the new model that rolls out for customers to procure is the one that we're proposing, then you control the day.
Now, there's a question here from one of our members, and we
Right.
don't know if COVID will ever be gone, but the
Yeah.
question is, what is the play if COVID is handled, if COVID is gone one day, if everyone's vaccinated and we've
Yeah.
got the herd mentality and everybody's good now, we're not worried about COVID anymore,
Yeah.
then what? What becomes of Universal PropTech then?
Yeah. Well, that is a great question because there's a lot of what ifs in there.
Yeah.
Um, COVID, or I mean, the fact that there are variants sort of indicates where I think it's going. COVID's not disappearing anytime soon, right? We're now going into the following year before everyone can be vaccinated. So there are going to be issues, which means what are issues, which means people could be stuck at home, hospitalized. There could be, unfortunately, more deaths. It's a more serious flu-like issue going forward at minimum, and it could be worse than that. So I think that's probably more of a new reality. And I think the test of that is for many years, right? Having worked in this industry for a long time, for many years, you didn't worry about your HVAC you didn't worry about your ventilation system. You didn't worry about the air quality per se, right? It was really how old is my boiler? How old are my chillers? Are my systems near end of life? Certainly in a governmental atmosphere, are they near end of life? Do I have to now make a new investment? What's that new investment? And all of a sudden, really out of nowhere, out of COVID, comes this really big focus on the quality of the air that you're putting through, right? So if we're talking about 30% fresh air requirements before COVID, the question becomes, well, wait a second, what's the new line that everyone does this at? Are we at 100% fresh air forever? I don't think so. I think the cost of energy bills and just to run buildings is going through the roof. Who's paying for all that? If we're trying to, as a building operator and building owner, take that back down to some reasonable level, so the determinant of what that reasonable level is, well, how good is your air quality to make it lower? So air quality becomes the investment that allows people to actually say, we can go back to only 30% fresh air again because we're cleaning our air very well. We have sensors in place that monitor the particulates, the VOCs, and the other pathogens in the air. There will be a more dynamic ventilation system that will be able to determine what's in the air in real time. How do we adjust? We turn on the UVs again? Do we turn on the ionization? I think there's a new standard that will occur going forward. Again, Wild West, it hasn't been figured out, but that new standard will be increased costs in air quality, more refined, customized solutions per building. Hey, that's our space. That's what we're going to be doing. And so, great question. But the other part I'd say quickly is air quality. COVID-19 is absolutely a critical piece of what we've done in the last few months, but it's only one piece. And so building our building performance group, which we're well underway, having a lot of great discussions and trying to build in pieces for that. And we have a great solid mechanical, a great solid controls, and then the energy resources side, we're already looking at the future. We're already looking at all those other areas where we're going to backfill and create the next layer of opportunities out there. So we're certainly not just putting all of our bets down on COVID. I mean, that's actually kind of morbid, but no, it's something we're dealing with. We get it's going to shift, but it will always be a big piece of it going forward. We anticipate.
There's a question here from Green Bull, says, has there been a mention of sales or installations for Ontario and Quebec?
So we just locked up these products in the last 2 weeks. So I appreciate the question. I think give us some time to understand, were we just going to go to market with one product as we got it? Truthfully, not really, because our approach has always been, and we put out our approach even prior to locking down these products, it's a more integrated approach. And so it is, and I said, we've already tested it. We've already tested it on a school board to understand how the value prop works. We're trying to refine what's the right method of transaction. It's not just as simple as sell product. We want to be the installers. We want to be people designing which product goes in and where and how. I've seen a mess already of people who want to put in a certain product and are designing it the wrong way and are getting the worst bids to do it. So we want to solve a lot of that. So as we're testing that out, and we're getting a good sign right now as to how that's going to work, we're probably weeks to month away of starting to roll out a more aggressive campaign, sales campaign that will get those sales in, get the installation, and as soon as we can start determining, or at least advising on what this is going to do to projections. We absolutely believe it's going to be a bullish year and improve our projections 100%. To what number yet, we'll have a better sense in the coming weeks. But great question. It's LuminUltra was the kingpin of that. LuminUltra allows us now to really put a backstop behind everything we say, to say, you know what, we can actually guarantee that we're going to clean it and clean that air and ultimately the surface. So this is how we're going to recommend that. That changes it a lot.
When we did our interview last week, you mentioned a lot of big things were coming. You said that you felt like there was some big catalysts coming. Stock was under 30 cents. Today we're at 47. You are 100% correct. Now we have a question. Is there anything we can expect for February? Obviously, we're almost halfway through February here.
Yeah.
You guys are still got some big news coming, I'm assuming, over the next few weeks. The news isn't going to stop, right? We're not stopping here at 47 cents. There's a plan here, obviously, to build your market cap. I said that this was a $1 stock since day one, and you're almost halfway there. I believe.
Yeah. I don't know why you aim so low, but
well, I was going to say that when I say a $1 stock, that is my first target for UPI. So I want to make that very clear. I'm not saying you're a $1 stock and you stay there, because once you get to $1, then we set new targets. But the first target that I set for our club when we started talking about UPI, tight flow company, changing the world, making buildings safer, I thought $1 stock, I think if everyone gets in at 30 cents or under and it goes to $1, everyone makes 200%. Everyone should be happy, right? So
you asked a lot of questions in there, packaged up, and so I would say number one, unbelievably bullish, and we are not stopping. Nothing is slowing down. If anything, it's going to be increasing the speed. Wow. And honestly, people, I hope they'll have a tough time hanging on, but hang on. It is a rocket ship you are strapped into.
Love it.
So unbelievably bullish, and I think the reason is it's not just we're going to sit back and rely on, everything we've done to date will cause everything to happen. We don't rest that easily, okay? We are making sure that from a pull factor to a push factor to every determinant that will make that school board or that senior's home or that municipality or that campus select us to get in the door and do A, B, and C for them, that we're making it as difficult as possible for them to not let us get that work, right? So we're doing everything we have to do. So, it's, we're building up speed, we're building up steam here, and we're well on our way, I think. And I would love to be, I started a few months ago, I'd love to be in a position where I could start talking about all the sales from it. You know what? Right now we're buying all the ingredients. We're bringing all the ingredients into our kitchen. We're determining what's the best way to sort of put them into that dish, and then be able to sell that dish out like crazy. And it's not that easy. The good news is that we're not sitting back and taking one step at a time. We are absolutely multitasking. We're absolutely, we're multitasking. Ask me that next interview if we can multitask well, and we'll see what happens. We're in a good place. I think, it's really interesting. Talk about stock price and everything. I think the interesting part is you've had this solid $10 million a year without even trying. Here we are going aggressive after the market. We're picking up really cool technologies and approaches that are more going to get us our share. And then we have active growth strategies to really drive sales. That someone will question, but a technology that hasn't sold much, that is going to go up on a wall in every school, but that will go through the roof to a crazy number. I think people need to be reasonable, and I think I think we've got a great plan, a great strategy. And in this industry, one thing I know about, you don't compare me to the almighty, you compare me to the alternative. And if I look at what's out there and they compare their revenue base to ours, and you compare their profitability to ours, and they compare what we have in plans and strategies, we'll take that bet any day, and just hang on. And I think that's the profit. We want to make people money, right? We want to make people money who invest in us, and we want to make people money who buy our services. So I think it's pretty simple bet on that.
You're doing a great job. People are definitely making money. Great question here from Genie3. Are you aware of anyone developing smart surface sensors that could detect pathogen loads on hard surfaces like elevator controls or door handles and send out an alert?
I'm personally not.
That'd be so cool.
But I will say, knowing what I know about artificial intelligence and certain solutions out there, it wouldn't shock me if there were. I think, again, this is what gets interesting. you don't, and I've learned this in all my life, you don't design solutions for what would be cool and ideal, right? Like I've met my fair share of engineers who came up with brilliant solutions that nobody wanted to buy. Okay. And they can be brilliant and we can do a lot of, have a lot of fun conversations over beer over them, but are they pertinent and relevant to that person buying them? Are they going to buy them? And if you don't ever, if you forget who you're doing this for, then you're in trouble. And I think we already understand what money schools and campuses and government put out to function their, for their buildings to function and to operate. We're living within the means of what they spend and are doing our best to take our larger share of that spend. COVID meant more money was being outlaid to solve backlog of issues from, horrible HVAC systems, horrible ventilation systems within that. They're just structurally deficient. So that additional money coming out, we want to get a bigger slice of that. We're not trying to sell them something they're never going to buy, or sell them something that, gee, if I buy this, I have to change the entire processes I've been running my facilities on in order to accommodate it. Why ever would we do that? So, we're on the street, we're already working with these guys, which is why we're the best vehicle to bring PropTech solutions through, because we'll work within the environments we already live in. Why would we do it any other way?
I love what you guys are doing. Tight float stock, priced right, making money, running it lean and mean, and focused on building shareholder equity and creating shareholder value. If there's one more message you want to leave to the investors and the people that are watching all over the world, what would it be?
I said it last time. I'm pretty sure last time I said, pay attention, you need to watch, and absolutely watch. But I would say, put on your belt and watch at the same time would be the one difference from last time.
And we got so many investors wanting that US listing and that German listing. Any updates on anything there going anytime soon? We gonna get some more listings? Because our viewers want to buy the stock.
I'd love to answer all these questions. I think, there's a plan, there's a method to the madness. And as things play out, your viewers will find out about it. We're not asleep at the switch. We get what needs to happen, and things are going to happen, and in due time they will.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time again, Frank, the Chief Growth Officer of Universal PropTech. Thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you. Thanks, Rich. We'll talk soon.
Keep up all the great work. For those of you guys that are watching, if you're not winning, you're not watching, we bring you the winners and we bring them to you first. If you like the video, smash the like button, comment down below, share the video everywhere, and subscribe for future updates. And remember, Rich TV Live is strictly for education and entertainment purposes. Always do your due diligence, always do your research, and consult a financial advisor before you invest in anything that we talk about here in Rich TV Live. Always invest in the best. The best is blessed, and you deserve the best. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. I told you guys UPI was going to be a winner. Congratulations to all the winners all over the world, and it's just getting started. Have a nice day, everybody. Lots of videos today, super busy, lots of winners. Exciting day, guys. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a nice day. And if you guys haven't joined the club yet, join the club. See you soon.